¿Cómo va? No te escucho, creo.
¿Me escuchas ahora? ¿Ahora?
Ahora sí,
¿Qué tal, Juan? ¿Cómo estás?
todo bien. Ahí tenemos a Ben. How's it going?
Hey, Ben.
Hey,
Hello.
hey.
Hey, Jason, good
Hello.
morning. Good morning. How was everyone's weekend? Something fun to share with us?
Sounds like we're boring people over the weekends. What about you, Ben?
It was actually a great weekend. My son is competing in para swimming because he's using a prosthetic leg, and it was the national championship. It was the first time that he is competing, and was great. So we were all the family supporting. Um,
Nice.
2 days of competition. The first day he was like not fully concentrated, let's say, but the second day he did great, and he was one of the youngest. So it is a lot of merit on that. So yeah, good weekend.
Congrats.
Cool.
Thank you. Hey, Julian,
Hello.
are
How are you?
you walking your dog in New York?
No, not quite yet. I just took her out just before this call, so I'll be here for a half hour and then probably leave in the middle of the call.
Cool. How is
Well,
the
not
weather
leave the
today?
call, but leave the house.
How is the weather today, New York? Rainy?
It's been rainy the past couple of days. Today it's okay. Of course, when it rains, that doesn't she doesn't decide not to use the bathroom. So unfortunately, when it rains, we still go to the park.
Yeah. Cool. If we only have 30 minutes of Julian's time, let's get started. Is that okay for everyone? Cool. I'm going to share my screen. Can you see my screen? Okay.
We can.
Let's start, as always, with some housekeeping, reviewing together the meeting etiquette. We are going to record this meeting to share it with the community and also in our YouTube channel. But if someone in this session is against sharing this in YouTube, just send me a message, a private message, or as you prefer. So it can be Slack. And I'll take care of not uploading this one. Otherwise, I upload this tomorrow morning. We encourage everyone to challenge any language or behavior that is harmful, not inclusive, or against our code of conduct. We'll try to use the Zoom reactions for us that attempt to speak and stay in mute when other people is speaking. And without what is the way is without further ado or with further ado? What is the right way to say that? Without further ado? Thank you for the English lesson. So without further ado, let's go with today's agenda. We have 3 topics. One aided by Juan regarding some of the interesting topics in the review of his article. Try to reach agreement on a definition of lexical and dynamic scopes. Here we have an extended comment, but Juan will explain this topic later. There is another topic regarding the upcoming new edition of Google Summer of Code. And added by myself. And finally, another topic regarding a proposal that I have in a pull request regarding ambassadors program. So I'll explain it later, and let's see if I can get more reviews or feedback about that. We are still on time of adding more topics, so if you have something in mind, just drop a comment or directly at the issue. Any questions so far regarding today's agenda? Okay. Before going with the first topic, let's take a look together to the action items of the meeting of the past week. We had a great discussion regarding the issue 557. So we continue with pursuing the stable specification idea. The meeting was great, honestly. We had great discussion, exchanging ideas, and getting some good agreements, let's say. And the action item was continue the discussion about publishing meta schemas with experimental keywords as true. And this was a discussion between Greg and Jason, and this was like without a strong commitment about what is next, but it was like a desire of continue the collaboration in that way. I didn't include any owner of the action item. It's still pending. So if this is already started or complete, feel free to mark that as completed. Otherwise, it's here.
Yeah, we've started discussing the some of these issues, but we haven't gotten to that particular one yet.
Okay. Thanks for the update, Jason. Any question or comment regarding actions or agreements of past weeks community meeting? Okay. Let's go then with today's topics. The first one is all yours, Juan.
Cool, awesome. So probably all of you guys have already seen it, but just in case anybody else is watching this call on YouTube, I've been trying to write an article that explains how lexical scopes and dynamic scopes work. And the main reason for me for publish this article, and I'm dropping the link here just for the record, it was to just polish my own understanding on this, as I'm heavily working on my own JSON schema implementation, and I wanted to make sure that anything that would not be correct would be said, and I think we definitely got that, I think, and more, which is awesome. And so that blog post PR, it got a lot of different comments, and I think what we found is that different people have slightly different views over these topics. I think they both converge on that they explain in different ways kind of the same behavior. So it's not that there is a complete, disconnect between core members of what they mean, and I think that explains why people have different implementations with different I guess, ways of implementing the scopes, and they are still interoperable. And they both work fine. But as we were having all these conversations, I tried to go reread everything that was said so far and try to summarize the different views that were happening on those multiple threads at the same time. And that's what I attempted to summarize in the comment that I have that I linked on in the community issue, and I'm gonna link it back here. Okay, yeah, I think you, Benja, you are screen sharing. That's awesome. So the summary, as far as I can tell, is that there are two proposals. Yeah, can you link in that? Can you click a link on? Can you click on that comment, Benja? Yeah, that one. Because that one is summarizing the two views that I've seen people have on lexical and dynamic scopes. Just to summarize them a bit, let me see. So proposal number one, and I guess the difference essentially comes down to whether we consider the scopes to be a specific sub-schemas or the schema resources. So on number one, yeah, on proposal number one, the proposal is that both lexical scopes and dynamic scopes are the entire schema resource, and with the dynamic scope is the order set of the schema resources visited so far, and that ties very well to, for example, how keywords like anchor work, because again, your entire schema resource is in scope, so you can access that very naturally. Whereas proposal number two, I think it's more fine-grained, and we say that only the subschemas and the parent schemas are in scope, and we consider keywords like anchor to work because we consider them to be special keywords that kind of affect the scope of the entire subschema, all the subschemas on the schema resource that they are defined in. So I think at the end of the day, they both define the same thing. But my idea with raising this up for this call is that see if we can come with some agreement on how we want to present scopes to the community, and then based on whatever agreement we come up with, I can go and revise the article. I think it's important to remember that I think both proposals seem to arrive at the same point. They both seem to work as far as we can tell. So I'm not sure what criteria we can use to select one or the other one, but I think it would be good to at least have one official view on that we can explain potentially to users or readers of the specification later on.
I think an important nuance of the proposal too is that there's different levels of scope. It's not just one thing. There are at least 3 different categories of keywords that affect scope differently. So I think, like in the first proposal, you say that the entire schema resource is in scope, and that is true for certain keywords. But it's also, but it's not true for every keyword. And then there are keywords that where the definition in proposal 2 apply. And then there's anchor that's just a little bit weird. But yeah, I think it's not quite as simplistic as, is it the entire schema, or is it the lexical nesting? It's kind of both.
But other keywords that wouldn't match, for example, with proposal number one. Because if any, I mean, one criteria would be which one would be the easiest, to understand, right? And if we say that proposal 2 has many different, facets, also depending on the keywords, is there any drawback of proposal number one, assuming a more like simple, just an entire schema resource, and having that match all of these cases?
It is simpler, but it doesn't match all cases. It only really describes well anchor. And
What are the other ones it doesn't describe?
any like type, a normal keyword like type. If I have type in in multiple places in the schema, like if I'm in one definition and it has a type in another definition doesn't have, like, that type is not in scope for the schema in the other definition.
Greg, go ahead.
So, Jason, while I agree with what you're saying, I think that for the purpose of this blog, or for the purpose of this blog post, we need to consider that scope in this context is only in regard to how references are resolved. And when that's the case, you can just consider the whole resource. I think it's simpler for the readers to understand to do that way. And for the purposes of a blog post, I don't really know that we need to get super fine-grained, excuse me, and down into the nitty-gritty details of how scope works. I think we define it enough to make sure that average JSON schema user knows or understands how the references work, and that's sufficient for the blog post. If we want to go and do further definitions or redo the spec, then yes, let's get down to the details of how the scopes work and everything. But for the purpose of the blog post, I think it's fine.
I think so. If we consider the purpose of the article, right? I think there are two ways to look at that. So I agree with what you're saying, Greg, so far. I think the one question I have is that are we aiming the article at people that want to understand scopes from a schema writer point of view, or do we want the article to also be helpful at clarifying how somebody actually goes and implement and provide and starts writing a JSON schema implementation? For example, like me, right? So if we're saying this article would provide enough information for somebody to understand scopes as a schema writer, would I be able to just take what I wrote, for example, in here, and implement exactly like that? And would I get into any potential pitfalls? I guess it also depends on who do we want to target. That, I think, for me, from a more like selfish approach, the whole point was, for me to understand it, to be able to implement it. And I wonder if that would change how we want to define it.
Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, I think I actually I like a lot what Greg was saying. If we limit the I want to say scope of this discussion, but it's unfortunately overloading that word to references, then it absolutely makes perfect sense to be more generic about it. The only thing that really matters are anchors in that frame of reference. So that makes sense. And to Juan's point about like, is it useful to describe scopes further for implementers? I'm not sure that it really is, because the only scopes that matter, well, I guess like ID and schema create scopes that are relevant, but other than that, it's just local schema stuff. So it's maybe not as useful, not as helpful. I'm not sure, actually.
Greg.
I would say that we probably would want to target this toward schema authors. There's not really a whole lot out there for schema authors to understand how these keywords work. As an implementer, I understand your desire to target implementers for the blog post. But I think we have other avenues to explain the more technical details. I think we need something for the readers or for the users.
How that sounds, Juan? Do you think you can adjust the audience of the article, or
Yeah, for sure. So then, I mean, it sounds like the two action items I'm taking from this, and you guys can tell me if I miss any, but it seems like, so I'm gonna adapt the blog post, right? We want the target audience of that to be somebody writing schemas, right? which I think that's good. And then on the other side, we are gonna frame it in terms of proposal number 1. And we're gonna say that when we're talking about these scopes, they are in the context of URI referencing within the schema. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's what we said. Although now that I'm thinking about it more clearly, it's not just anchors that matter when you're resolving a reference. It's also the $ID, which is used for determining the base URI. So it is a little more complicated still, even for just schema authors, than just saying the whole schema is in scope.
But the schema resource, like what determines the boundary as a schema resource, that would be $ID, right? So would it be, do you have any conflict, a specific example in mind that would not fit?
Oh, I see what you're saying. So I suppose that yeah, if there's more than one $ID in the schema, then it's in a different schema resource.
Yeah.
Yeah, that technically works, even though it's a little bit technically wrong. But yeah, no, it's a little white lie to make it a little bit easier to understand, I think. It's fine.
I'm happy with the white lie. For the purposes of this blog post, I'm happy with the white lie.
Yep, I withdraw my objection.
Julian, Ben, does it sound good to you too? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's roughly where I was at, to be honest. Sounds like it makes sense to me.
And I honestly have no strong opinions about the scope thing because as an implementer, I've never thought about them. So
I'm not an implementer, so I don't have a strong opinion too, but I would like to repeat Greg's sentence. So for the purpose of the blog, I agree with them. This is so strong,
Sounds
that
good.
sentence. So yeah.
Cool. Okay, awesome. So then I have some homework. I'm probably gonna be revising the blog post in the next couple days or something like that, and we can kickstart another round of review, and hopefully it's all fine. But yeah, that's great. Sounds awesome.
Okay, thanks everyone. I'm going to share my screen again. Let's see the other topics we have for today. Next topic is from my side and is regarding Google Summer of Code. So the application period start past Friday or past week. I don't remember exactly what day, but we have until February 6th to prepare our application. I'm assuming that we are going to apply again because I think we had a good participation. Both had good new features, and most important, we receive new community members, and some of them are really active. I think that is one of the key aspects of Google Summer of Code, not only the progress in the projects, but also what is the people that is joining the community and staying. And in that sense, I think it was great, and I'm so looking forward to repeat again. So first thought or first question is, how do you feel about applying again? The process to apply already started, but now that we are discussing about this, just a quick recap about how do you feel about Google Summer of Code. Julian was mentored, Jason was mentored too, so if you like to share your thoughts, that would be great. And the second part of the discussion is just invite all of you to think about project ideas. I have some on mind, and I still need to create issues for those. For example, new features for the new website. We have the design ready for rebuilding the implementations page. We have like 25 different issues. Some of them issues in the website. Some of them with big features. So I think that easily I can prepare at least two project ideas for the website. We have the JSON schema landscape, one idea that we discussed months ago. I think that we can add a project idea for that. And probably some automations around the community, like messages for triggering contributions, like first contribution or the first pull request merge, things like that. So I think that we can improve the experience with something like this. So from my side, probably 4 project ideas, but I will love to get your feedback about that. So 2 questions. First, how do you feel about applying a game? And second, if you have any project idea in your mind.
I have no ideas, but I think it was a good success for the community and for the project last year. So if we have ideas, then I say we go for it.
Yeah, even though it didn't work out for me personally as a mentor, I would want to try again. I don't know that I have anything quite ready that I could propose this time. I'll have to think about it. But once I get a little farther along with the language server, I think having somebody to help build out features with that would be perfect thing.
Yeah, this is what I was thinking while listening to you and having in mind the work that you have been doing in the language server. So maybe this is a good opportunity to think about some features that maybe the less complex one. And from a mentee perspective, working in a language server seems to be like a very, very interesting experience for them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be.
Juan, can
Jason,
I?
after this Jason, after this conversation, can you explain your language server? Just
Sure.
throw that in the back of your mind. Sorry, Ben. Go ahead.
I like to hear more about regarding the language server because when that is available for the community, I think that is going to be amazing. So yeah. And I have one question for Juan and another question for Julian, if he stays. Juan, past year you added a project idea for alter schema for something that wasn't available for Open API 3.1 or something like that. I'm going to share if you don't remember that one, I'm going to send you a message just in case you think that that feature is still pending and you think that you like to have someone supporting in some way alter schema for this time.
Yeah, I don't remember 100%, but I think I
Let
know
me
the one that you're mentioning, which is that we wanted to have an automated way for transforming the old on OpenAPI JSON schemas with their, the keywords that OpenAPI had into like a standard JSON schema. And if that's the one that you're talking about, sure,
I'm
sounds
going to
great.
share my screen. 1 second.
I mean, is it actually still relevant? And I guess it's a question for everybody from somebody that actually is not in the OpenAPI space. Do you think it's something still worth pursuing?
Is this one?
I'm sorry, was that converting an Open API schema to a JSON schema? Was it?
Yeah, the pre 3.1 Open API schemas that had, their own keywords and some like things that they've added. into, say, a JSON schema 2012. Do you guys think that that's still a problem out there?
Well, for 3.1, it's there's nothing to do. 3.1 is the same as 2012, but with a couple of
Exactly.
annotation keywords, and they're just annotations, so there's literally nothing to do. And 3.0 is there shouldn't be much to do. There's like some things that are there's a lot of things that aren't included, and a few things that are added, and like one thing that changed. But it's I would imagine, like, I think this is a really good thing for somebody to do, but it's probably much too small for a job for a Google Summer of Code project. Maybe as part of a project.
Yeah, Juan, don't you also have backtracking, like downgrading, that somebody requested?
Yeah, so there are people requesting quite a lot of features in Alter Schema, so we can definitely try to increase the scope and get more people working on that kind of stuff. I think that would be great. And I mean, downgrading I think is tricky because I mean there are lots of schemas you cannot downgrade without some loss of information during the validation process, and it's still very unclear to me to what to which point you should aim to do that. Maybe we do it in a per schema thing. Some schemas can be downgraded and some not. And I think the bigger problem space in this that would be interesting is just getting somebody maybe from Google Summer of Code to spend a lot of time thinking about and maybe even formally defining to some capacity all of these rules that need to happen, right? Either for upgrading, downgrading, taking into account Open API and others, and maybe having that list be something like my original idea with Alter Schema, and definitely where I want to go as I'm gonna be revamping all that, was to have the rules themselves be defined in the JSON schema organization, right? That would be maybe defined again within using JSON itself, as I was doing with JSON-E on Alter Schema or something else. But I think those rules, if we can have them as part of the org, as a part of an asset that you can consume in any other project, then anybody can go and implement, say, an engine that goes and applies them. And I think that's where the value is, right? Maybe the task could be around creating this language independent, like declarative rules in some format that then we can all go and consume, taking into account all of these subtleties like potential downgrading and others.
That sounds super cool. Yeah. I raised my hand to share something and regarding OpenAPI 3.1. And is the reality that the adoption is going really slow. So most of the people is still using previous version. So the most of the audience using OpenAPI is below that. So if we implement this feature, we are targeting most of the population that is close to JSON schema. So makes sense, and increasing the scope makes sense. So yeah, cool. Excited to have a project idea for Alter Schema. Any other comment regarding Alter Schema? No. And I have one question for you, Julian. How do you feel regarding Google Summer of Code this year? Do you have new features to be implemented? And are you excited about being a mentor again?
Yeah, I'm definitely up for it. And I have 8,000 ideas, so the number of ideas is definitely not the issue. Yeah. I had an idea this morning that would take 5 years to build, but probably could have a POC to be done as part of Summer of Code.
We can, considering that both is extremely important project, so maybe we can have 2 ideas, but the problem is that we only have one Julian, so it's a matter of how much you can handle. So yeah, maybe
she's gonna mentor also.
maybe someone that has knowledge on Bowtie. Let's see, maybe something to think about if we can have
Yeah,
more than
Julian
one
can
idea.
share his ideas.
Yeah, the one from this morning has nothing to do with. I a solid half of them have nothing to do with the with Bowtie, to be honest. So I'll just post them and then you can claim them.
Okay. Any other comment regarding Google Summer of Code? If not, we can have 5 minutes to have a preview explanation about the language server before going to the last topic. Are you okay with that, Jason?
Yep. So to start with, should I explain what a language server is, or do we understand the basic concept?
I think maybe a small overview, a couple sentences of what it is would be good.
Sure. All right. So the idea of a language server is that it's a standard format for or protocol for a language server to provide features that you expect in an IDE to an IDE, and then using the language server protocol, it's like you can write those features once and they can work in any IDE or editor that supports the protocol. So the idea is writing something that that does all the things for JSON schemas, and ideally that should end up being available to just about any IDE or editor that people want to use, including I'm working in NeoVim for the development of this, and it's it's pretty nice. So what features am I trying to accomplish with this? I want to have inline error messaging. I want to have semantic highlighting, so things like keywords are colored differently than just regular JSON properties. And let's see what else. Deprecations, like if you have the deprecated keyword in the schema, it should be able to show that keyword is deprecated. Annotations like descriptions, like we can use that for hover overs to get information about things. You should be able to click on a reference and go to the schema that defines that, or that identifies, or that is identified by that ID, that reference. Linting, it'll be able to do basic linting stuff, and or even advanced linting. So yeah, I mean all those kinds of things that you might expect. Oh, it should be able to do not just validating and linting schemas, but also when you write your own schemas, you should be able to validate and lint and get hints for the JSON that you have that schema represents in your project. All kinds of things. The current VS Code JSON language server does a lot of these things, but not all the stuff that I want to do, not nearly all the stuff I want to do, and is also very limited in what it supports. for example, doesn't have any of the newer features like unevaluated or dynamic references. But even basic stuff like it doesn't understand embedded schemas or self-identification at all. Only file-based references. So there's a pretty big gap in that existing tooling. Currently, what I'm doing so far is just spiking. I have no idea what I'm doing still at this point, and I'm just learning how all these things work and what all of the pain points are going to be, and you know, and what's going to be hard to do, and what I'm going to have to refactor in my tooling to make it work. So so ideally, like I should be able to at some point get to a base that we can work off of, and then at that point, then I want to just then it would be good to have an intern to just start hammering out features on top of that base. So, any questions?
When is going to be available? When is
What
going to
was
be
that?
available? When is going to be available?
when?
Because sounds really cool. No, it's a joke. Sounds super cool. Sounds super cool.
That's a good question. I really have no idea. Right now, I'm like I said, I'm still kind of figuring out what's going to be the hard part, and you know, and then however many surprises I find, it's going to take a little bit longer. And so it's really hard to say. I would hope by the end of the year that people are using it. I think that would be that would be a long scope. Hopefully there could be like a beta version with really basic features out in by summer. But I'm a software engineer, so I'm bad at estimating. So who knows? All right, let's say July, by July. Greg.
Great, thanks for sharing that update. And I mean, everyone is excited about that. So as soon as you have something cool to share, just put something in the agenda and we'll listen to that. Cool. The last topic of the agenda, I'm just going to very quickly post the link in the chat, is regarding these pull requests. I'm going also to share my screen very quickly. I sent a pull request. Let me make this a bit smaller. Creating an ambassadors program was in my to-do list since probably I joined the project. For all of those that are not familiar with the concept of champions or ambassadors programs, is a program basically to recognize relevant members of the community. Those relevant members might be top contributors or influential members of the ecosystem that are speaking often in events or are creating writing content. So it can have multiple approaches, but basically are great to generate trust and to scale the ecosystem itself. So bring more new people, generate trust among the ecosystem in organizations. Probably in some cases, those ambassadors can help in their own companies if they are using JSON schemas. So we can have like a great connection to clarify topics or to get insights. And I think this is the right time to launch this. Why I'm doing this right now? After being in API Days Paris with Ben, we had great conversations with people. And when reaching out to some of those persons that we spoke with, some of them were like excited or interested in the idea of being involved in some way. So I sent some invites to check if they are interested in being part of early adopters of this program, and we have a good response. So this was the evidence for me that it's the right time to try this. So this is the context. And what I did, basically, I took the inspiration of the Async API Ambassadors program and got some feedback by Ben and Julian. So this is the pull request, and if you have time this week or the next days, just take a look and let me know if this makes sense for you and if you think that we can amend or remove or add something that can make the program better. Any question? I thought that was sharing my screen, but I wasn't. But I hope that you follow my explanation. So that's the pull request. So yeah, excited to get more reviews and feedback. Thanks. Any comment regarding this or any other topic before closing the call for today? Cool. Thanks everyone for your time and the great discussion. Have a good rest of the day and thank you for making the time. And let's keep discussing in Slack and GitHub. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.